On the Boston bombing investigation, we're joined on the Squawk Newsline by former CIA Director James Woolsey. James, thanks for joining us this morning.
Good to be with you.
You heard Chuck Schumer there in the tape, and he asked the question, which is, do you consider this an intelligence failure? And let me just put it in context. We have lived over a decade since 9/11 without a major situation like this, and also we've stopped a number of these things. But when you think about this guy going to Russia, coming back, putting up stuff on YouTube, the Russians calling the government to say, is he all right, and no follow-up, how do you think about it?
Well, I think it's a government failure. I mean, it wasn't. This was not something that the CIA overseas dropped the ball on. They have been known to in the past, but this was not their issue. What happened is that there was no follow-up, and the same thing happened a few years ago with, I believe it was the underwear bomber. His father had reported him to the U.S. Embassy in Nigeria, saying, "My son has become a real radical. You ought to watch him." The State Department's message back to Washington fell on deaf ears. Nobody watched him, and it took the crew and the passengers on that plane to keep the plane from being blown up. So we don't really have a very good system, apparently, for staying on top of people who get reported unless they are shown to be violent.
Right.
Once they're violent, then our law enforcement authorities apparently kind of notice, but they're worried. I think they're scared of being charged with Islamophobia or something if they stay on top of somebody who happens to be a Muslim after there's some reporting until there's violence.
So do you think that is an underlying problem, that there's a worry about people considering this profiling? And by the way, just to put it in perspective, how many calls a day is the FBI, the CIA, and other officials getting like this?
Yeah, I have no idea.
You think it's a regular thing? You think it's 50 times a year? You think it's thousands of times a year?
It's probably at least hundreds. But I don't know. And I think that there's a worry. Well, look, this is a First Amendment country. It's the First Amendment for a reason. It's the most important one. It's freedom of speech and religion and press. And we don't want to discriminate against people in any way because of their religion. But when an institution gets going, like the jihadis coming into existence here in recent years, say starts with 9/11, although it was well before that, we have to pay attention to what they're saying to one another and what they're doing. You couldn't stop the burning of witches in Salem in the 1690s just by paying attention to the people who were lighting the fires under the poor women who were being burned. You had to pay attention to everything that was going on in that society in order for it to be stopped.
James, the mayor has said that these men acted alone. Do you believe that?
Well, it depends on what you mean by alone. I mean, certainly they seem to have been inspired by people talking on the web and videos and the like, sort of the way Major Hassan, who the administration called just an example of workplace violence, who told his fellow workers he was on jihad and killed 13 fellow soldiers. The U.S. government's not even giving the people who were wounded at Fort Hood the Purple Heart because they said it was just workplace violence. Well, you got to get out of the mode of thinking that everything is workplace violence unless and until there's 100% clarity that there were meetings and so forth with people who were guiding them. Sometimes people self-radicalize in an ideology like Islamist jihadism, and it happens.
Okay, James, thank you for your perspective this morning. We appreciate it, and as the investigation continues, I imagine we'll be talking again.
Good to be with you.